His hand was wrapped around her wrist, his breathing unsteady, and Chioma Okonkwo knew she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. Not coming to Korea. Not falling for Park Ji-hwan. The mistake was thinking she could walk away from a man who'd already decided she belonged to him. "You swore you didn't want me," she whispered, her voice breaking as his grip tightened, possessive and trembling. "Then why didn't you walk away?" Ji-hwan's laugh was dark, bitter. "Because wanting you and having you are two different hells, Chioma. And I've been burning in both since the moment I saw you." 6 months earlier, she'd been just another tourist in Seoul, starry-eyed and camera-ready, living out her K-drama fantasies with her girls. Now she was standing in his penthouse, caught between his world and her heart, between a love that could destroy them both and a man who refused to let her go. The Mafia boss who'd warned her to leave. Who'd pushed her away with one hand while pulling her closer with the other. Who'd just shown up at her door after seeing another man make her smile. Welcome to Afro-Korean Love Stories. If you're loving this story, hit that like button and subscribe, because what you're about to watch would leave you speechless. Tell me in the comments which city you're watching from. I'd really love to know. Now, let's dive into it. Chioma had fallen in love with Korea long before she ever stepped foot in Incheon Airport. Late nights in Lagos, binging K-dramas until sunrise, learning choreography from YouTube videos, practicing basic Korean phrases that made her friends laugh. Seoul wasn't just a destination. It was a dream wrapped in neon lights and possibility. The 2-week trip with her girls was everything she'd imagined. Myeongdong's chaotic energy. Street food that exploded with flavor. The thrill of possibly spotting an idol on the street. They laughed until their stomachs hurt, took 1,000 photos, and made memories that should have been enough to last a lifetime. Should have been. Their last night in Seoul, her friends wanted to go somewhere upscale. Somewhere Instagram-worthy. They found themselves at a lounge in Gangnam. All velvet ropes and beautiful people. The kind of place where money whispered instead of shouted. Chioma was taking a selfie, her friends posing behind her, when the energy in the room shifted. It was subtle, like the air pressure changing before a storm. She lowered her phone and saw him. Park Ji-hwan walked in like gravity bent around him. Tall, devastating in a black suit that probably cost more than her rent. Moving through the crowd with a kind of confidence that came from never having to ask for anything twice. His face was sharp angles and dangerous beauty, the kind that made smart women stupid. But it was his eyes that stopped her heart. Dark, calculating, intense as a summer storm. They swept the room like he owned every corner of it. And then they landed on her. 3 heartbeats. That's how long they stared at each other. Long enough for Chioma to forget how to breathe. Long enough for something to pass between them that felt like recognition, like collision, like the beginning of something that would ruin her. He looked at her like he was memorizing a threat. She looked at him like every dangerous second lead syndrome she'd ever experienced had just walked into her reality. Then his crew surrounded him, men in dark suits who moved with precision and purpose, and they disappeared into VIP. Her friend Amara grabbed her arm, whispering frantically about how those men looked like trouble, how they needed to leave, how Chioma's staring was going to get them in over their heads. They left an hour later. Chioma looked back once. He was watching from the VIP section, glass of whiskey in hand, his gaze following her like a promise or a warning. She couldn't tell which. On the plane back to Lagos, her friends talked about their favorite moments, already planning their next trip. Chioma stared out the window at the clouds and felt something crack open inside her chest. Seoul hadn't just been a vacation. It had been a homecoming. And that man, that dangerous stranger with eyes like midnight, he'd felt like the period at the end of a sentence she hadn't known she was writing. 2 weeks after returning home, Chioma extended her visa. Her friends thought she was crazy. Her mother cried. Her father didn't speak to her for 3 days. But her gym-fit clothing brand was digital. She could work from anywhere, and Seoul was calling her back with a voice she couldn't ignore. She told everyone it was about the culture, the opportunity, the adventure. She almost believed it herself. 3 months in, Chioma had built a life in Itaewon. A cozy one-bedroom with a view of Namsan Tower. Morning Pilates sessions. Evening language exchanges where she traded English for Korean. Weekend mornings at Gwangjang Market. She joined a gym near her apartment, something upscale with a sauna and a juice bar, the kind of place where influencers filmed workout videos. Her brand was growing. Her Korean was improving. She'd made friends, found her rhythm, learned to navigate the subway like a local. She'd almost convinced herself she'd moved on from that night. From him. Almost. It was a Wednesday afternoon. Chioma had just finished a workout, was heading to the changing room, sweaty and exhausted and thinking about the bibimbap she'd reward herself with. She felt him before she saw him. That same shift in the air. That same electric charge. She turned, and there he was, standing outside the private training suite, watching her through the glass like he'd been waiting. Like he'd known exactly where to find her. Park Ji-hwan looked different in athletic wear. No less dangerous. Just more human. Almost. Chioma's heart slammed against her ribs. She should have kept walking. Should have pretended she didn't see him. Instead, her feet carried her toward the glass, toward him, like a moth to a flame that would definitely burn her alive. He stepped out of the suite. Up close, he was even more devastating. Taller than she remembered. His presence suffocating in the best, worst way. "You stayed," Ji-hwan said. His voice was rough, accented, impossibly deep. Chioma's mouth went dry. "Yes, I did." His jaw clenched. Something dark flickered across his face. "I know. You and your friends, you had tourist written all over you that night at the club." He stepped closer. Too close. Close enough that she could smell his cologne, expensive and woodsy. "This city isn't for people like you. You should have left with them." But his feet brought him closer, not away. And that contradiction, that war happening behind his eyes, it made Chioma bold in a way that terrified her. "If you didn't want me here," she said, her voice steadier than she felt, "why are you at my gym?" His lips curved. Not quite a smile. Something sharper. "Your gym? I come here every day." "I know." 2 words. They landed like a confession. Chioma's pulse thundered in her ears. "You've been watching me?" Ji-hwan's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes softened for just a fraction of a second. Seoul is smaller than you think, especially for people who stand out. "I stand out. You know you do." His gaze traveled over her face like he was studying a painting he couldn't quite understand. Beautiful African woman. Alone in Itaewon. Running a business from her apartment. Working out every day at the same time. He paused. "You're memorable, Chioma." Hearing her name in his mouth felt intimate. Dangerous. How do you know my name?" "I make it my business to know things." He tilted his head slightly. "Chioma Okonkwo, 27. Lagos born. Came here on a tourist visa 6 months ago, extended it for a year. You run a fitness clothing brand. You're learning Korean. You go to Gwangjang Market every Saturday morning and always buy from the same bindirik stall." Her breath caught. That wasn't casual observation. That was surveillance. "Are you following me?" "I'm protecting you." "From what?" "From me." The words came out rough, almost angry. "You should go back to Lagos, Chioma, before this becomes something neither of us can walk away from." But even as he said it, he moved closer. Close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Close enough that the heat of his body made her skin flush. "You swore you didn't want me," Chioma whispered, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "So, why didn't you walk away?" Ji-hwan's hand lifted, his fingers hovering near her cheek, but not quite touching. Like he was fighting himself. "Losing. Because I'm selfish. Because the moment I saw you that night, something in me recognized something in you. And I've been trying to convince myself it meant nothing." "Does it mean nothing?" His laugh was bitter. "If it meant nothing, I wouldn't know your coffee order. I wouldn't know that you bite your lip when you're concentrating. I wouldn't have bought this gym just to have an excuse to be near you without scaring you away. Chioma's world tilted. You bought this gym? 3 weeks ago. His fingers finally made contact, tucking a loose braid behind her ear. The touch was gentle, reverent, completely at odds with the intensity in his eyes. I told myself it was a business investment, that I was diversifying my portfolio, but we both know that's a lie. Ji-hwan. His name felt foreign and familiar on her tongue. Don't. He pulled back abruptly, like her voice had burned him. Don't say my name like that. Like you're not terrified of what I am. What are you? Someone you should run from. He stepped back, creating distance between them that felt like violence. I deal in things that would horrify you, Chioma. I operate in shadows. The men you saw me with that night at the club, they're not friends. They're soldiers. And I'm their general. She should have been afraid. Everything about this moment screamed danger. But all Chioma felt was curiosity and something deeper, hotter, more reckless. A mafia boss. You've been in Korea long enough to understand what that means. I understand. She took a step toward him, watched his pupils dilate. I also understand that if you really wanted me gone, I'd be gone. Men like you don't make suggestions, Ji-hwan. You give orders. So why are you asking me to leave instead of making me? His control cracked. Just for a moment, but she saw it. Saw the want, the need, the war raging behind those dark eyes. Because I'm hoping you're smart enough to save yourself from me. And if I'm not, then God help us both. They stood there, the tension between them thick enough to choke on. Around them, the gym continued its normal rhythm, people running on treadmills, lifting weights, completely oblivious to the world-altering moment happening in their midst. Finally, Ji-hwan reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. Black, minimalist, with only a phone number embossed in silver. If you need anything at all, call this number. What if what I need is you? His hand trembled slightly as he placed the card in her palm. Then you call that number and I'll come. But know this, Chioma. The moment you call, there's no going back. I won't be able to stay away anymore. I won't be able to pretend this thing between us doesn't exist. Maybe I don't want you to pretend. Ji-hwan closed his eyes like she'd struck him. When he opened them again, they were full of something that looked like pain, like longing. You don't know what you're asking for. Then show me. For a heartbeat, she thought he might kiss her. His gaze dropped to her lips, his breath quickening. But then he stepped back, his mask sliding back into place. 2 weeks. I'm giving you 2 weeks to change your mind, to book a flight back to Lagos, to forget you ever saw me. And if I don't, then I stop being noble. He turned to leave, then paused. And, Chioma, don't go out alone at night. Don't trust strangers who seem too friendly. And if anyone asks about me, you don't know me. Understand? Before she could respond, he was gone, disappearing into the locker room like smoke. Chioma stood there, his card burning against her palm, her heart racing, her entire world shifted off its axis. She should book a flight, should run as far and as fast as she could. Instead, she tucked the card into her sports bra, right over her heart, and smiled. 2 weeks. He'd given her 2 weeks. She'd give him 3 days. That night, Chioma couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the conversation, the way he'd looked at her, the tremble in his hand when he'd touched her face. A mafia boss. She was falling for a literal mafia boss. Her mother would have a heart attack. Her father would disown her. Her friends would stage an intervention. But God, the way he'd said her name, like a prayer, like a curse, like something precious he was terrified of breaking. She pulled out her laptop and did what any sensible woman would do. She researched him. Park Ji-hwan, 32 years old, owned half of Gangnam through a web of legitimate businesses that fronted for less legitimate operations. Clubs, restaurants, real estate, construction. There were rumors, whispers on forums, nothing concrete.
He was too smart for that.
Too careful. But the pattern was clear. He controlled territory, commanded loyalty, operated in a world where power was currency and weakness was death. And he wanted her. Had bought an entire gym just to be near her. Had been watching her for months, protecting her from shadows she didn't even know existed. It should have terrified her. Instead, it made her feel alive in a way she'd never experienced. Like she'd been sleepwalking through life and he'd finally woken her up. 3 days. She'd give him 3 days to see if his resolve was as strong as hers was weak. Wait, before we continue, do you think Chioma coming back to Korea on a whim was a wise choice? Let me know in the comments what you think and what you'd do if you were in her shoes. And if you're Team Chioma and Ji-hwan, smash that like button right now because things are about to get more spicy. Don't go anywhere. Chioma lasted 2 days. 48 hours of pretending she could focus on work, on her language classes, on anything other than the business card that lived in her wallet now, that she touched obsessively like a talisman. 48 hours of jumping every time her phone buzzed, hoping it was him, even though she hadn't given him her number.
Hadn't needed to.
Men like Ji-hwan didn't need permission to know things. On the 3rd morning, she woke up to find a coffee on her doorstep. Her exact order. Iced Americano. Extra shot, light ice. No note. No signature. Just the coffee and the clear message that he was still watching. Still close. It should have felt invasive. Instead, it felt like foreplay. That afternoon, she called the number. He answered on the first ring. Chioma. Just her name. But the way he said it, rough and relieved and resigned all at once, made her entire body flush with heat. It's been 2 days, she said, her voice steadier than her hands. I know. A pause. I was hoping you'd make it to 2 weeks. Liar. You left me coffee this morning. She heard his exhale, could picture him running his hand through his hair, that gesture of frustration she'd already memorized. I left you coffee because I was outside your building at 5 in the morning trying to convince myself not to knock on your door. Her breath caught. Why didn't you? Because once I'm inside, I won't leave. And you deserve better than a man who can't walk away. You swore you didn't want me, Chioma said softly, echoing their conversation at the gym. So, why didn't you walk away? Silence.
Heavy.
Loaded. Then, where are you right now? My apartment. Stay there. I'm coming. He hung up before she could respond. Chioma stared at her phone, her heart racing, her mind spinning. She had maybe 20 minutes. She spent them pacing, changing her outfit 3 times, finally settling on simple jeans and a fitted black top that made her skin glow. She'd just finished touching up her makeup when the knock came.
Soft.
Almost tentative. Nothing like the man she knew him to be. Chioma opened the door and forgot how to breathe. Ji-hwan stood in her hallway in dark slacks and a white dress shirt rolled up to his elbows, looking like every dangerous fantasy she'd ever had. But it was his eyes that destroyed her.
Raw.
Vulnerable. Like he'd stripped away every defense on the way over and was standing before her completely exposed. Tell me to leave, he said quietly. Tell me you made a mistake calling. Give me a reason to walk away, Chioma, because I can't find one on my own. Instead of answering, she stepped back, opening the door wider. An invitation. A surrender. A choice. Ji-hwan entered like he was walking into battle, his eyes never leaving hers. She closed the door behind him, and suddenly her apartment felt impossibly small. The air too thick. The space between them too charged. I tried, he said, his voice low. For 6 months, I tried to leave you alone. Told myself you were just another beautiful woman in a city full of them. That this pull I felt was just attraction, just chemistry, just something I could ignore if I was strong enough. But you weren't strong enough.
No.
He moved closer, each step deliberate. I wasn't. I'm not. You walk through this city like you own it, like you belong here, And something in me wants to make that true. Wants to give you everything. Protect you from everything. Keep you so close that nothing and no one can ever touch you. Chioma's back hit the wall. She hadn't even realized she'd been retreating. That sounds like possession, not love. It is possession. He braced his hands on either side of her head, caging her in without touching her. It's obsession. It's everything I swore I'd never feel because men in my position can't afford weakness. Can't afford to care about someone more than they care about survival. Then why are you here? Because you called. And I would burn my entire empire down just to hear you say my name again. His forehead dropped to hers, and Chioma felt him trembling. Actually trembling. This powerful, dangerous man coming apart at the seams. Tell me I'm not alone in this. Tell me you feel it too. I feel it, she whispered. I felt it that first night. I came back to Seoul because I couldn't breathe properly anywhere else. Because something in this city felt like home, and I didn't understand why until I saw you at the gym. Chioma. Her name was a prayer, a plea, a breaking point. Ji-hwan. She lifted her hands to his face, cradling it, feeling the tension in his jaw. Stop fighting it. Stop fighting us. He kissed her like a man drowning, like she was air and salvation and everything he'd been denying himself for months. His hands found her waist, pulled her flush against him, and Chioma melted into his touch. The kiss was desperate, consuming, full of 6 months of restraint shattering into nothing. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ji-hwan rested his forehead against hers. I can't give you normal. I can't give you safe. My world is complicated and dangerous and full of things you shouldn't have to navigate. I don't want normal, Chioma said fiercely. I want you. All of you. The danger. The complications. The shadows. I want it all. You don't know what you're saying. Then teach me. Show me your world. Let me in, Ji-hwan. Stop protecting me from you and just be with me. Something in his eyes shifted. Surrendered. If we do this, there are rules. You don't go anywhere without telling me. You don't trust anyone I haven't vetted. And if I say it's not safe, you listen. No arguments. That sounds controlling. It is. Because in my world, the people I care about become targets. And I won't survive if something happens to you, because I wasn't careful enough. The raw honesty in his voice made her chest ache. Okay, I can live with that. But I have rules too. His lips curved. Almost a smile. Tell me. Don't shut me out. Don't make decisions about us without talking to me. And don't you dare push me away, because you think it's what's best for me. I'm a grown woman, Ji-hwan. I can decide what risks I'm willing to take. Even if that risk is me? Especially if that risk is you. He kissed her again, softer this time. Reverent. Like he was memorizing the taste of her, the feel of her in his arms. When he pulled back, his eyes were clearer. Decided. There's a gala tomorrow night. Legitimate business, but my world will be there. Politicians, business owners, people who operate in the gray areas. Come with me. Let me show you what you're signing up for. Chioma's heart raced. As your date. As mine, he corrected. Not my date.
Mine.
There's a difference. Possessive much? You have no idea. His thumb traced her lower lip. Wear something that makes you feel powerful. Because tomorrow night, I'm introducing you to my world as the woman who brought Park Ji-hwan to his knees. I brought you to your knees? The moment I saw you, Jagia, I just didn't want to admit it. He stepped back reluctantly, putting space between them like it physically hurt. I should go. Let you rest. Tomorrow will be intense. Stay, Chioma heard herself say. Just for a while. We don't have to, just stay.
Talk to me.
Tell me about yourself. The real you, not the man everyone else sees. Ji-hwan studied her for a long moment, then nodded. They moved to her small couch, and he pulled her against his side like it was the most natural thing in the world. like they'd been doing this for years instead of minutes. And he talked, told her about growing up in Seoul, about inheriting his father's empire at 23 when most men his age were still figuring out their careers, about the weight of responsibility, the isolation of power, the loneliness of being surrounded by people who feared or wanted something from you. Until you, he said quietly, you looked at me like I was just a man. Dangerous, maybe. Interesting, definitely. But just a man. Do you know how rare that is? Chioma threaded her fingers through his. You're just a man. A complicated one. A powerful one. But still just a man who's been watching me for months because he couldn't help himself.
Guilty.
He pressed a kiss to her temple. Get some rest, Jagia. Tomorrow, everything changes. The dress arrived at noon. Chioma stared at the garment bag hanging on her door, delivered by a woman in an expensive suit who'd simply bowed and left without a word. Inside was midnight blue silk that shimmered like water, elegant and daring, with a neckline that plunged just enough to be devastating and a slit that climbed dangerously high up her thigh. There was a note tucked inside, written in sharp, confident handwriting. Wear this. Let them see what I see. JH. Chioma ran her fingers over the fabric, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. She'd never owned anything this expensive, this beautiful. She took a photo and sent it to her group chat with her girls back in Lagos. The responses came immediately. Amara. Girl, who is he? Ngozi. That's at least 5 million naira worth of dress. Zainab. You better be getting married because wow. Chioma smiled and typed back. Just a date. I'll explain later. Except it wasn't just a date. It was a declaration. An unveiling. The moment she stepped out on Ji-hwan's arm, she'd be stepping into his world, and there would be no hiding after that. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt electric with anticipation. At 7, there was a knock. Chioma opened the door and nearly forgot her own name. Ji-hwan stood there in a tailored black tuxedo that fit him like sin, his hair styled back, a diamond watch catching the light. But it was his expression when he saw her that stole her breath. Like she'd knocked the air from his lungs. Like she was the most devastating thing he'd ever seen. Chioma. Her name came out strangled. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him, his eyes traveling over her with an intensity that made her skin flush. You're going to cause a riot tonight. Is that a problem? It's perfect. He moved closer, his hands finding her waist. Every man in that room is going to want you. And every single one of them will know you're untouchable. Because you're mine. There was that possessiveness again. It should have bothered her. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in her belly. Yours. Mine, he confirmed, then pulled out a velvet box from his jacket. Inside was a necklace, delicate diamonds that caught the light like captured stars. May I? Chioma turned, lifting her braids. His fingers were surprisingly gentle as he fastened the necklace, his breath warm against her neck. When she turned back, his eyes had darkened. Ji-hwan, she whispered. We need to leave, he said roughly. Because if we stay here another minute, we're not making it to this gala. The car waiting downstairs was understated luxury, all black leather and tinted windows. Ji-hwan's driver nodded respectfully, but didn't speak. As they pulled into Seoul's glittering night traffic, Ji-hwan took her hand, threading their fingers together. Nervous? He asked. Should I be? People will talk. There will be whispers. Some will be cruel.
His jaw tightened.
If anyone disrespects you, tell me immediately. I can handle whispers, Ji-hwan. I know you can, but you shouldn't have to. He lifted her hand to his lips. Stay close to me tonight. And remember, half these people are sharks in expensive suits. Smile, be polite, but trust no one. Except you. Except me. The gala was at a hotel in Gangnam, the kind of place where chandeliers cost more than cars, and everyone looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. As they entered, heads turned. Conversations paused. The attention was immediate and intense. Ji-hwan's hand settled possessively on the small of her back, guiding her through the crowd. People approached, bowing respectfully, their eyes flickering between Ji-hwan and Chioma with barely concealed curiosity. Park Se-jangnam, an older man in an expensive suit, greeted, using the formal title. His eyes lingered on Chioma. You didn't mention you'd be bringing a guest. I don't need to mention anything, Director Kim. Ji-hwan's voice was pleasant but edged with steel. This is Chioma Okonkwo. She's with me. The weight he put on those last two words made the meaning crystal clear. Not just his date.
His.
Director Kim bowed to Chioma, but she caught the calculation in his eyes. Welcome to Seoul, Miss Okonkwo. Thank you, Chioma replied smoothly. Though I've been here 6 months now, Seoul feels like home. Does it? Another voice joined them. A woman, stunning in red, with cold eyes and a smile that didn't reach them. How fascinating. Most foreigners find our city difficult to navigate long-term. Ji-hwan's hand tightened almost imperceptibly on Chioma's back. Mrs. Han, still spreading warmth wherever you go, I see. Mrs. Han's smile sharpened. I simply speak truth, Ji-hwan SSI. Your father would have appreciated honesty. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. My father, Ji-hwan said quietly, would have appreciated you minding your business. Excuse us. He guided Chioma away, his jaw tight. She waited until they were alone by the champagne fountain before speaking. She knows your father?
Knew.
He's been dead 5 years. Ji-hwan grabbed 2 glasses, handed her one. Mrs. Han is old money, old grudges. She doesn't approve of how I run things. Too modern. Too willing to work with people she considers beneath us. People like me, you mean? People like everyone who isn't Korean elite born with silver spoons. He clinked his glass against hers. Ignore her. She's irrelevant. But Chioma had caught the flash of something in his eyes. Pain, maybe. Or memory. Your father. Were you close?
No.
The word was flat. Final. He was a hard man who built an empire and expected me to maintain it exactly as he had. Traditional. Ruthless. Isolated. Ji-hwan's gaze found hers. I've spent 5 years trying to do things differently. Better. It's made me enemies. Is that why everyone's staring? They're staring because you're the most beautiful woman in this room, and I'm notoriously private. I've never brought anyone to these events. He set down his glass. Dance with me. It wasn't a question. Chioma let him lead her to the dance floor, very aware of every eye tracking their movement. The music was slow, classical, elegant. Ji-hwan pulled her close, one hand on her waist, the other cradling hers against his chest. You're doing great, he murmured. Better than great. You belong here. I don't, though. Not really. I'm an outsider playing dress-up in your world. You're not playing anything. You're real in a room full of masks. That's why they can't look away. He spun her gently. That's why I can't look away. They moved together like they'd been doing this for years, their bodies finding a rhythm that felt natural, inevitable. Around them, other couples danced, but Chioma only saw Ji-hwan. The way he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. Like she mattered more than the empire, the reputation, the carefully constructed world he'd built. Ji-hwan, she started, but he shook his head. Whatever you're about to say, whatever doubt is creeping in, don't. Not tonight. Tonight, just be here with me. Let me have this.
So she did.
She let herself sink into the moment, into the feeling of his arms around her, the soft music, the glittering lights. For a few perfect minutes, nothing else existed. Then someone tapped Ji-hwan's shoulder. He turned, his expression shifting instantly to something cold and controlled. The man standing there was young, handsome in a smooth way that felt calculated. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Hyung, the man said, aren't you going to introduce me to your beautiful companion? Ji-hwan's entire body had gone tense. Miho, I didn't know you were in Seoul. I came back early. Heard there was an interesting development. Miho's eyes slid to Chioma, assessing. Kim Miho. I work with Ji-hwan occasionally. Chioma Okonkwo. She extended her hand, caught the flash of something ugly in Miho's expression before he masked it with charm. Okonkwo. Nigerian? He took her hand, held it a fraction too long. How exotic. Ji-hwan always did have interesting taste. The word exotic landed like a slap. Ji-hwan stepped between them smoothly. Miho, go find someone else to bother. So protective already. Miho's smile widened. Interesting. Very interesting. Enjoy your evening, Miss Okonkwo. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of each other. He walked away, and Chioma felt Ji-hwan's rage in the rigid line of his shoulders. Who was that really? Competition. Rival. Someone who's been trying to take my territory for 2 years. Ji-hwan's voice was tight. Someone who now knows exactly how to hurt me. Chioma's blood ran cold. Because of me. Because he's a snake who looks for weaknesses. Ji-hwan took her hand.
Come on.
We're leaving. But now, Chioma. Okay, let's pause for a second because I need your opinion. If you were Chioma, would you have gone to that gala? Would you step into a dangerous world for someone you're falling in love with? Comment yes if you take the risk, or a no if you'd walk away. I'm really curious what you do. And if you're loving this forbidden romance, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because Ji-hwan and Chioma's story is about to get even more intense. Now, let's see what happens at this gala. The car ride back was silent. Tense. Ji-hwan stared out the window, his jaw clenched, one hand gripping Chioma's like he was afraid she'd disappear if he let go. She wanted to say something, anything to break through the wall he was building between them, but the words wouldn't come. They didn't go back to her apartment. Instead, the car pulled up to a high-rise in Cheongdam-dong, all glass and steel and money. Ji-hwan's building. His penthouse. Come up, he said quietly. Please. Chioma followed him into a private elevator, watched the numbers climb, felt the weight of the evening pressing down on her chest. The doors opened directly into his apartment, and she stepped into a space that was all clean lines and minimalist luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul's skyline, the city spread out like diamonds on black velvet. But she barely noticed. She was too focused on Ji-hwan, who'd moved to the bar and poured himself whiskey with shaking hands. Talk to me, Chioma said. He downed the whiskey in one swallow. Poured another. I made a mistake bringing you tonight. No, you didn't. You don't understand. He turned to face her, and the anguish in his eyes made her heart crack. Miho isn't just competition. He's dangerous. Calculating. And now he knows that the one thing in this world I care about more than my empire is you. So what? You're just going to push me away? Lock me out because someone might use me against you. I'm trying to protect you. I didn't ask for your protection. Chioma crossed to him, grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. I asked you to let me in. To stop fighting this thing between us. You think I don't know the risks? You think I'm naive enough to believe loving you would be safe? Loving. The word came out strangled. Yes, loving. She said it fiercely, recklessly. I'm falling in love with you, Ji-hwan. Maybe I started that first night at the club. Maybe it was when you bought a whole gym just to be near me. Maybe it was tonight when you looked at me like I was worth more than your entire empire. I don't know when it happened. I just know it's real. Ji-hwan set down his glass with trembling hands. You can't love me.
You don't know what that means.
What it costs. Then tell me. Show me. Stop deciding what I can handle and just be honest with me. Honest. His laugh was bitter. You want honesty?
Fine.
I haven't slept properly in 6 months because every time I close my eyes, I see you. I've had men watching your apartment, your gym, every place you go because the thought of something happening to you makes me physically ill. I've restructured my entire operation. made changes I swore I'd never make, just to create a life where you could be safe beside me. He moved closer, his voice dropping. I wanted to destroy Miho right there in that ballroom for the way he looked at you. For calling you exotic like you were some curiosity instead of the most extraordinary woman I've ever met. But I didn't. Because I'm learning that protecting you isn't about violence. It's about being smarter, better, different than the man my father raised me to be. Chioma's breath caught. You swore you didn't want me. So, why didn't you walk away? Because I'm weak. The words exploded out of him. Because every principle I've lived by, every rule I've set for myself, it all means nothing when it comes to you. I swore I'd never bring someone into this life. Never make someone I love a target. But here you are, wearing my diamonds, carrying my heart, and instead of being terrified, I'm hopeful. Hopeful that maybe I can be the man you deserve. That maybe love is worth the risk. Then let me take that risk with you, she whispered. Let me choose this.
Choose you.
Stop trying to save me from yourself when all I want is to be close to you. Ji Hwan's control shattered. He kissed her desperately, all the restraint from the past months dissolving into raw need. His hands found her waist, pulled her flesh against him, and Chioma wrapped her arms around his neck, pouring every ounce of her feelings into the kiss. I love you, he breathed against her lips. God help me, I love you so much it's destroying me. I love you too, Chioma said, and I'm not going anywhere. Not because of Miho, not because of danger, not because of anything. They moved to the windows, soul glittering beneath them like a promise. Ji Hwan held her close, his chin resting on top of her head. I need to tell you something, he said quietly. The past 5 years, I've been working to legitimize my operations, moving away from the darker parts of my father's empire. It's why people like Mrs. Han disapprove. Why rivals like Miho think I'm weak. You're not weak.
No.
I'm just done living in shadows. I want something real, Chioma. A life that isn't built on fear and violence. And meeting you made me realize that's actually possible. He turned her to face him. I can't promise you it'll be easy. There will always be remnants of my past, people who'll judge us, whisper about us. But I can promise you that I'll spend every day trying to be worthy of you. Chioma's eyes filled with tears. You already are. Then stay with me. Not just tonight. Build a life with me here in Seoul. Let me show you every day how much you mean to me. That's a big commitment. I know. And I'm not asking you to decide right now. I'm just asking you to consider it. Consider us. He brushed away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. You came to Seoul looking for connection.
For home.
What if home isn't a place? What if it's this?
Us.
Chioma looked out at the city that had called to her across oceans and continents. The city where she'd built a business, made friends, found herself. The city where she'd met a man who challenged her, protected her, loved her with an intensity that took her breath away. I don't need to consider it, she said softly. I already know my answer. Ji Hwan's expression was carefully neutral, but she could feel his heart racing against her back. And
yes.
Yes to staying. Yes to building something with you. Yes to all of it. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. Pure joy, unguarded and beautiful. He spun her around and kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When they finally broke apart, both breathless and laughing, Ji Hwan rested his forehead against hers. You have no idea how happy you just made me. I think I have some idea, Chioma teased. You're smiling. I didn't know your face could do that. Only for you, Jagia. Only ever for you. They spent the rest of the night talking, planning, dreaming. Ji Hwan told her about the legitimate businesses he was building, the vision he had for a different kind of empire. One built on innovation and integrity rather than fear. Chioma shared her dreams of expanding her brand, maybe opening a boutique in Seoul, creating something that bridged her Nigerian heritage with her new Korean home. As dawn broke over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. They stood together at the windows. Two people from different worlds who'd found something rare and precious. Something worth fighting for. You know what the funny thing is? Ji Huan said, pulling her closer. For 6 months, I convinced myself I could resist you, that I was strong enough to walk away. But the truth is, I was lost the moment I saw you. You swore you didn't want me, Chioma reminded him with a smile. I lied. He kissed her temple. I wanted you from the first second. I was just too afraid to admit it. Too afraid that wanting something this much would make me vulnerable. And now I know that vulnerability isn't weakness. Love isn't a liability. You didn't make me weaker, Chioma. You made me braver. Strong enough to choose something different. To be something different. 3 months later, Chioma stood in the same gym where everything had changed, teaching a morning class she'd started for expat women trying to find their place in Seoul. Her business had exploded, her boutique was set to open in Gangnam next month, and she'd never been happier. Ji-hwan watched from the observation deck, that same intense look in his eyes that he'd had 6 months ago. But now there was no distance between them. No walls. Just love, complicated and messy and absolutely perfect. After class, she found him waiting with her favorite coffee. Some things never changed. Still watching me, she teased. Always. He pulled her close, not caring who saw. But now I get to do it without hiding. Without pretending I don't want to be close to you. No regrets. Not a single one. He kissed her softly. You changed my life, Chioma Okonkwo. Made me believe that people like me could have something real. Something good. We both changed, she corrected. I came to Seoul looking for home. I found it in you. As they walked out into Seoul's bright afternoon, hand in hand, Chioma thought about how far she'd come. From a girl watching K-dramas in Lagos to a woman building an empire beside the man she loved. From tourist to resident. From stranger to home. People still stared. Still whispered. The beautiful African woman and the reformed Mafia boss, an unlikely pair in a city that valued tradition. But let them stare. Let them whisper. Because Chioma had learned that love didn't ask for permission. It didn't bow to judgment or fear. Love just was. Fierce and brave and uncompromising. And she wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Ji-hwan squeezed her hand, and she looked up to find him watching her with that expression that still made her heart race. Like she was the most precious thing in his universe. Like he couldn't quite believe she was real. What are you thinking? She asked. That I'm the luckiest man in Seoul. He pulled her closer. You swore you didn't want me, I swore the same. But neither of us could walk away. And I'll spend the rest of my life being grateful we didn't. Me too, Chioma whispered. Me too. Because sometimes the best love stories aren't about perfect people in perfect circumstances. They're about flawed humans choosing each other despite the odds. About building something beautiful from broken pieces. About finding home in the most unexpected places. And as Seoul rushed past them, vibrant and alive and full of possibility, Chioma knew she'd found exactly where she belonged. Not just in the city, but here. In Ji-hwan's arms. In this life they were creating together. One brave choice at a time. If this story touched your heart, show some love by hitting that like button and leaving a comment telling me what you loved most about Chioma and Ji-hwan's journey. Have you ever taken a risk for love? Ever felt that pull towards something or someone that scared and excited you at the same time? Share your story below. And don't forget to subscribe because love stories like this, they remind us that sometimes the most beautiful things in life are the ones we almost walked away from, the ones that happen spontaneous and unplanned. Until next time, keep believing in love that makes you brave.